we've still got an absolute ton to talk about with Modern Warfare, and we're going to be, of course, continuing that throughout the next couple of weeks here, but I want to take some time away from some guides or some things that may prove insightful as we kind of round out what is now close to the first full week of Modern Warfare's launch. But today I want to talk about something that may prove interesting for the future. That being the first look at what our DLC content season may look like within Modern Warfare and what's to come. Some of it may be coming very soon. So that said, we're going to talk about some leaks here in this video and let you know everything you need to regarding some maps that have been leaked and potentially what it may mean for the future. So that said, if you guys are new and want to stay up to date with all this kind of stuff, do be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare. The daily content will still be here all the same, but of course, if you don't want to miss a beat, being subscribed will keep you in the loop. But anyways, the information we'll talk about here today deals with information from the Gaming Revolution, who we've talked about here on the channel beforehand and has had much of what he's predicted come to pass and leaked beforehand, so track record is relatively decent. As with all things that are leaked, take it with a grain of salt, of course, because things are subject to change. Things may not exactly be what they appear to be. Additionally, we'll also be taking some of this information from the game files and game code, stuff that is already embedded within the core of the game, which is visible on PC, but not necessarily on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Console doesn't have the ability to end up sifting through all those files and seeing strings of code and things that may denote upcoming content, but PC does. But that, of course, is where we're going to be getting this information we're talking about today. So, blunt and to it, it seems like the maps that we'll be getting on offer at some point during the year, my guess is a little earlier on here, and we'll talk about why in a second, but those include Wetwork, Terminal, Crash, Vacant, Broadcast, Scrapyard, and Rust, all as 6v6 maps, and Rust also being a gunfight map, Farida, Boneyard, Caged, Hook, and a couple of ground war maps and other gunfight maps as well. One of those ground war maps being entitled Farms, another one in the game files being called Donetsk, which is another play on the map that we see in Spec Ops. That all looks to be coming here at some point. These are already in the game files right now or have some information out there as is, which to me makes it seem like we might be seeing these a little earlier on than normal. And being that some of these are in the game right now, that might mean that these aren't the only maps we see throughout the content season, that 18 maps might actually just be the start. I mean, we haven't had any title updates outside of the day one updates and the title updates at the very beginning of the game here. So when we see things added in progressionally, it's not like they're done with everything right now and they're going to sit on their hands for a year. They're still going to be making content and making things as the year progresses. So that might mean that we get even more that are slowly embedded in the game files as things go on and time progresses. And on top of all of this so far, we also saw 2 days ago, we talked about it, that the Call of Duty companion app recently leaked the map of Train Station, which is going to be a 50v50 map. So that starting lineup for the post-launch content is certainly one to behold and definitely looks to be a little beefier than maybe we're really anticipating. Now, we've known about some of these maps already, being the fact that they may come back. We've known that that is in the discussion, and it has been for quite some time. I forget exactly off the top of my head who it was. They ended up saying that there really were no remakes at the very beginning in what was going to be for launch. This was pre-release because they were focused on providing new content to the players. So when you take a look at how many iconic maps there are that are available for remakes, and in that sense may not be as much put into the map design, as much put into the rest of engineering a map experience for players, it would make sense that we end up seeing a lot of these maps that are major players in the franchise coming back in some capacity. But what's interesting is that some of these also look to be a little bit different. For example, Wetworks, from what the Gaming Revolution has talked about beforehand, actually won't be Wetworks how we remember it from COD 4. We know that that is on the top of the ship. It's all sorts of different cargo materials. You have, of course, those bridges and catwalks, but you have the Wetworks version here within Modern Warfare looks to potentially be something a little different. Instead of taking place like how we saw it in the MP version of COD 4 and COD 4 Remastered, instead it's apparently going to follow the design approach of being inside the ship, very similar to what we saw with Crew Expendable, the mission and campaign for COD 4 and COD 4 Remastered. Things like Scrapyard are also something that may very well be slightly different than that of what we know for Modern Warfare 2. I'm not entirely sure if you guys have played Spec Ops at all, but that was something that we saw, that Scrapyard was actually in one of the locations in the Spec Ops operations, so that is something that maybe it's ported directly from that and made into an MP map of its own. very possible again because all the assets, all the structure is all there. That stuff may not necessarily need a major amount of development to become playable in MP. So with around 18 maps listed already for post-launch content, when can we expect to see this coming? Because I mean, we only have things of say 1 Spec Ops mission, whereas it was said we'd have 4. We only have a handful of multiplayer maps, and sure, while it's something that night maps are pretty cool, I actually do think that that is a cool variation here, even though NVGs might not be everybody's favorite cup of tea, and personally, I might not play them all that much once they get their own playlist here for this. Maybe it's something I jump into, but I didn't really care for it all that much in the regular playlist. I still respected the design of it. I thought that was actually pretty cool to be able to pull off nighttime maps like that with its own separate vision with NVGs. Again, like it or not, I just think it's cool that they were able to do it. While the night maps are something cool and a little bit of a niche addition to the game, I would have definitely preferred if those didn't fill out the total amount of maps that we had on launch. There's only a handful of those in 6v6, which is, in a word, and probably the nicest way I can put it, kind of a bummer that we don't have more. But admittedly, it does seem like there is a lot of content, but not a lot at the same time with Modern Warfare's launch. So with 18 potential maps coming later on down the line, when can we expect this to start happening? First things first, I need to say that this is all educated guesses. This is all theory. None of this is confirmed, so your guess is likely as good as mine, but to put my thoughts out there, I would imagine it starts relatively soon, maybe a couple of weeks from now, maybe even shorter than then. But one thing that's a key portion here to me is that we had 50v50 and the map of Train Station leaked by the Call of Duty companion app. Those things that have leaked beforehand, we've had a couple of DLC maps leaked for Black Ops 4, we've had a couple of things elsewhere leak within the COD companion app, and they all came out relatively shortly thereafter. The announcement or the full official drop of things happened within the next week or two, if I'm not mistaken, with what was leaked from the Call of Duty companion app in the past. I think the most prominent, of course, was that DLC 1 within Black Ops 4, where surprisingly there was no promotion for it. There was no pre-promo for Black Ops 4's first DLC content drop. And so therefore, what if it happens the same exact way, where it's just a surprise drop within a week or two that we get a 50v50 map, something that takes Ground War to even the next level on top of that, and then maybe we end up getting a mission or two, because apparently from what the Gaming Revolution has mentioned, there's about 20 missions already completed for Spec Ops, but again, curiously, we only have one of those playable right now. Now, forgive me if I am being ignorant here with this. I haven't played too much of Spec Ops after our pre-release capture event, so perhaps you have to maybe complete each Spec Ops operation to unlock more missions. Maybe that's the case, but for right now, again, what I see, I only see one mission on the table, which prompts me to ask, when are the other ones coming? But what's also interesting to consider is the fact that we do know that we're going to have seasons within Modern Warfare, not only from just the leaked images and things of different operation customization that is specific to seasons and what they're named, but also the fact that Modern Warfare, of course, has a completely different ranking system this year that is seasonal. It's based off of seasonal, or I guess what you can previously call them as operations. We're going to see more of those, so it wouldn't surprise me with each season we see content drops as well. So maybe we get 2 to 3 maps, one of which being a remake every single time. Maybe we get a Ground War map, maybe we get a Spec Ops mission, maybe we get a gunfight map. However the rollout happens though, I am slightly anticipating it to be on a more relatively frequent drop compared to Black Ops 4, which for all intents and purposes looked to make things drop more frequently, but it still kind of followed that same pattern of different map packs, but just almost drawn out at that point. So the idea was there, the execution may not have been the best, so Modern Warfare may take that to the next level and actually provide more content and a relatively stable base coming afterwards, but also in a little bit more content for each drop. But what of course is the best part out of all of this, no matter when it may first drop, is the fact that all of this will be coming at the same exact time to all players and for absolutely no charge. Again, whether your thoughts on survival being something that you wanted to play or not, whatever those thoughts are out of the way, that seems to be the cost for everybody getting everything else all at one time. So that's something to consider, but I'm kind of curious on when it will all drop. Again, I think that it will be within a couple of weeks, perhaps. I would expect our first branded season to happen within about a month's time or so, maybe shortly thereafter, where this is sort of treated as a preseason, getting everybody acclimated to the game. Then we jump in with new content, new modes, new everything across the board, but this time is that preliminary time for players to jump in, for fixes to be made, for balancing to be made, and all things considered, and then we jump into that kind of stuff shortly thereafter. So I guess keep an eye out for the next couple of weeks and what they may hold here at this one, but wanted to share with you guys this information because we do have what seems like a lot of content still coming. And again, right now with what I said, it kind of feels like we are missing content, even though at the same time we do have so much depth within the game in some areas. Of course, things like Gunsmith, the camo grind, that stuff is a lot to work with and a lot to work towards. But in terms of the more top-down perspective things, like the maps, taking out Gunfight and taking out the night maps, we have 9 maps. But then also if you take out 10v10, that brings that map total down to 6. So again, there's a lot, but also not. So I guess we'll have to wait and see when we get our first drop of content here. I'm hoping within the first couple of weeks because I've seen a lot of talk about how the maps aren't the greatest. Personally, I've been playing Ground War just way too much. Haven't played 6v6 or 10v10 all that much to begin with. So my input is not really all that valid as it stands because I just don't have the necessary criticisms to give. But that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Are you guys hoping for some maps, whether classic or new, to relieve some of the map pool that we have now? Maybe just add on to it so you're not playing the same maps over and over and over again that you might not necessarily like. Are you guys looking forward to more Ground War maps? Are you looking forward to more Spec Ops missions? And when do you want to see them by? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube, where I can live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. Mine is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.